unions were necessary. They made this country for the purpose of helping the people. But over the years, they've gotten to the point where they've gotten so powerful that they're actually breaking the companies and everybody else's back because of the power that they maintain and hold today. I think from what I watch this movie and from what I can see, one of the main things that we need to do is to figure out how to break this particular union's back and take their power away from them. The same kids that they're making these decisions for by not allowing these teachers to have the ability to teach properly happen to be their own kids and their own grandkids, you know, and it seems as though they're not smart enough to realize that they're jeopardizing the ability for their own children in the future to have a decent education as well as anybody else's.
But, you know, I don't know of any forum that's ever going to happen in this state that would be critical of the unions. But is there something where we could get a public discussion going? To me, it's like educating our kids has become a job action. And like the other person said, I've been in a union myself. When I was in college, I had no intention of staying there. And people told me to slow down all the time, and it sounds like that's exactly what they're doing here. And, you know, you said in the case of the KIPP school, the teachers were willing to put in the time. They were willing to do the job. The teachers want to serve the kids. It's the union that's holding everybody back. Now, you know, if the politician, if that's what the politicians want, then you got to believe that the politicians who are getting the union support actually want that result. At least I'm coming to that conclusion. If it's gone on for so long and they're so intransigent, isn't that what they call? No, terrorist is what they call the Tea Party. But these people are destroying education.
But they could be entrenched.
I just want to say, the other thing to keep in mind is even though this movie does deal with the union issues, there are a lot of things to your point about how the community can get involved. There's only so many things that are included in those contracts that are bargained. There's a lot of things that happen in our schools that are outside of those contracts that can be addressed and looked at. For example, whether we have charter schools in Howard County or not is not something that's negotiated with the teachers union. The union bosses don't prevent that from happening. That's a decision that happens at the Board of Education level. And that's something that I think we should take a look at. You know, we have Woodmont Academy out of Cooksville that just went out, Norvell School, et cetera. There's property and there's schools that are there. There's things that we could look at. And we have the ability, we have a policy on that and the ability to do that. There are things that we can do in setting up, if they're public charter schools, if they're private, obviously no. But if they're public, yes.
No, state law calls that the school has to be established and then they come to the school system. The school system can approve that and then they get an allocation of public money.
Correct.
But the school board cannot form a charter
Correct.
school. I
So,
just want to make sure
to Janine's point, you're talking about how the community can get involved.
Yes.
The community can put together those opportunities. There's plenty of committees and commissions within the school system that give citizens the opportunity to come and voice their concerns, to take part in the process, to help develop policies and those type of things, outside of whatever's in the collective bargaining agreement and how many minutes they have for planning time and that type of stuff. That's nuanced. And so I think it's important to keep in mind that there's a lot that can be done to have fiscal accountability, to change the way we're doing things in our schools, to prepare our students for the 21st century that are outside of anything that's negotiated with the union. The teachers have to teach it regardless of their contract.
Okay, Cal, we'll take one more question. We have to be out of here in like about 5 till, so I hate to shut down the argument. Go ahead now.
Going beyond teachers, I don't believe Howard County is a very good system for teaching our children. I think one of the reasons it is doing well is because of the parents, the education of the parents, and the fact that the parents care about the child. Show me a child that a parent cares, and I'll show you a successful child.
But I think that's what we saw in the
But
movie.
in this
I think that's what we saw
But
in the
this
movie.
movie, the child said you read 105 books. I doubt if our students in this county are required to read half as many or a quarter as many of these of the books that this child read. Also, I want to know, what is the accountability in the Board of Education? I remember the superintendent of this current school went to Korea. Why is he going to Korea? I remember it was an advertisement, this superintendent of the school wanted another assistant superintendent for $175,000 a year. I can't understand what is going on here. I think it's a bloated bureaucracy, and I think it's not accountable.
Can I apply for that job?
Brian, you mentioned something about commissions, and are there positions available where people can volunteer for these commissions?
Yeah, there are advisory committees in the school system for virtually every curriculum area. When you're in the elementary school, it tends to be broader in terms of elementary curriculum, but there are special committees that look at and review the direction that curriculum will take in science, English, history, mathematics. At the secondary level, they tend to be much more specific because the curriculum gets much more specific as you move beyond the bases. There are also things like the Community Advisory Council to the board. People have been very active through the PTA Council, so not just through your individual school, but looking county-wide and being able to make a difference in recommendations. The board hears regularly reports from the Community Advisory Committee and the PTA Council. Every month, each of those groups has an appointment with the board, so we hear from them, twice a month. We meet with members of the community like that. We have coffees and conversations where people can come to different schools and come and bring forward things that they're concerned about. But I do think participating in the advisory committees is a way to be involved before something becomes an issue, to take a look at the direction that something is taken, and be able to have a part in how something is formed or delivered or reviewed, as opposed to waiting to come to a public hearing and testify about it when you see it after the fact.
But the one thing I think we left out is probably the best way to get involved is by electing a good school board. That's a decision maker. You can be as active as you want, but they make the decision. So if you're not going to be involved in the election coming up, you have to find people who are very good, who are going to be able to stand up for what's right. Because as an elected official, I know it's very difficult, but you need to make sure you have people who are really strong in that position. So that's probably the best way to make a change.
We did that. Yeah.
What's wrong? You got it right.
Last questions?
In Maryland, as I understand it, the local school systems are the only authorizer for public charter schools. Unlike in some other states where there may be multiple authorizers. And in Maryland, most of the school districts, and I believe this includes Howard County, are considered to be not charter school friendly. With the exception of Baltimore City and Prince George's County, there are very few, there are a handful of public charter schools around the rest of the state. And I guess finding a way in Howard County to invite those people in who might be interested in starting a charter school, to be proactive in terms of trying to allow them to be heard, I think would be an important step. Not that charter schools are the solution to everything. I think this movie perhaps overemphasizes the role that charter schools can play, but still they do have a role. And in Maryland, because of the single authorizer, it's very important for the local school systems to be open and to be inviting quality proposals in.
Thank you for coming. I think that echoes Senator Kilman's point that you need to have a school board that is open to that. And that's really, really important.
School board, but let me say this, I'm an educator. Educators are the most defensive people I know. They'll present a program to the school board and they'll say, why is this good? Because I said so. I used to tell my kids, why daddy? Because I said so. But educators are the most defensive people I know. I really didn't realize that till I got to be county executive. When I was a teacher before, I really didn't realize it, but I got to see a different angle, and educators are the most defensive people I know.
So I'd like to thank you very much for coming. I think we're going to have to end it here because it's 9 o'clock. And